Maybe you've been through battles no one else understands. Or maybe you're searching for answers. About God, about darkness, about yourself. Wherever you are in your journey, I want you to know that this is not just another story. This is my life, and it's the truth of what I went through even when I didn't want to face it. Before I go on, I'd love to hear from you. If anything in my story touches you or reminds you of something you've experienced, please share it in the comments. Your words might encourage someone else who's struggling. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories of hope, warning, and transformation, make sure to subscribe so you can walk with us on this journey. For years, I lived in darkness. Not just the kind of darkness that comes from making bad choices, but a darkness that felt alive, like it had a will of its own. I didn't stumble into it by accident. I chose it. I thought it would give me power, control, and freedom from the pain I carried inside. I got involved with things I thought were harmless at first, but they weren't harmless at all. They were doors I opened wide without realizing what would come through them. I didn't understand it then, but sin isn't just about breaking rules or making mistakes. It's more like signing a contract you can't see, a contract that gives permission for something evil to step into your life. That's what happened to me. I felt strong on the outside, but deep down I was becoming a prisoner. And the worst part? I didn't even know I was locked up. Every time I went deeper into the occult, I thought I was gaining more influence. But what I was really gaining was chains made of fear, anger, and emptiness. I didn't see them, but I could feel them tightening around me. I learned later that this is how darkness works. It offers you something shiny, but it takes everything that matters in return. The deeper I went, the more I began to see things most people never notice. I could sense the spiritual atmosphere around people, the heaviness, the unrest, the invisible battles they didn't even know they were fighting. I saw souls caught in different conditions, and later, God would help me understand what I had been witnessing all along. There were some whose lives were fully claimed by darkness. It was like their light had been completely smothered. No matter what they did on the outside, there was a deep emptiness in their eyes, a silence in their spirit that told me they had given up the fight long ago. Then there were the lukewarm ones. These were people who said they believed in God, but their faith was more of a label than a living flame. They didn't realize how exposed they were, how easily the enemy could strike them. They were like unguarded houses with open windows, wondering why the storm kept getting inside. I also saw those who were oppressed but completely unaware of it. They thought their anxiety, depression, or constant failure was just bad luck or personal weakness. But I could see the weight on them, chains they couldn't name but carried everywhere. And finally, I saw a rare few who seemed untouchable. There was something about them the darkness couldn't get near. It wasn't that their lives were perfect. It was that they were covered, protected, guarded. I didn't understand it back then, but now I know. It was God's shield over them. I wish I could say I wanted to be like them, but the truth is, at that time, I wasn't even thinking about leaving the path I was on. The power, the recognition, the feeling of control, it all felt too addictive. But deep inside, something was breaking and I didn't see it yet. It's strange how you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. That was my life. On the outside, I had connections, influence, and people who looked up to me for what I could do. But on the inside, it was like I was standing in a dark, empty room where no light could reach me. I thought I had control over the darkness, but the truth was, it had control over me. Every step I took deeper into that world, the more I could feel something changing in me. My thoughts, my desires, even my dreams were no longer my own. I would wake up in the middle of the night with a heaviness pressing on me, as if something invisible was trying to suffocate me. I would see shadows moving in places where there should have been none. I heard whispers that no one else could hear, not in words I could repeat, but in feelings that wrapped around my mind like chains. The darkness doesn't always come with horns and fire. Sometimes it comes quietly, making you believe it's your friend. It feeds your ego, strokes your pride, and tells you that you're in control. But in reality, it's tightening its grip while you're distracted. I learned this the hard way. There came a time when the spiritual battles I had once ignored started turning against me. The very forces I had served began to torment me. I couldn't escape the anxiety that would rush over me without warning. It felt like I was being watched all the time, like every step I took was being measured. I started having visions, dark, disturbing images of people suffering, of souls crying out for help. I didn't understand then that God was already allowing me to see the cost of what I had chosen. One night, during one of these attacks, I felt something different. It wasn't the usual weight of fear, it was deeper, heavier, like I was standing at the edge of something final. My chest tightened, my vision blurred, and I collapsed. In that moment, I thought it was the end. And maybe, in a way, it was. But as my body gave way, my spirit became more awake than it had ever been. I found myself in a place that felt more real than anything I had ever known. There was no sky, no ground, just an overwhelming awareness of where I stood. And I knew instantly, I wasn't alone. The presence I felt in that moment was unlike anything I had experienced before. It wasn't the cold, suffocating darkness I had grown used to. This was different, pure, holy, and so powerful that it felt like it could see straight through me. I didn't need anyone to explain who it was. My spirit knew. I was standing before the one I had spent my life running from. I can't explain how, but everything about my life, every choice, every thought, every hidden intention, was suddenly laid bare. There were no excuses left, no way to hide. It was as if my soul had been turned inside out. I realized then that I had been living in rebellion, and every door I had opened to darkness was visible in the spiritual realm. He didn't speak in human words, but he revealed to me the truth about my life. He showed me how sin had not just hurt me, but had given legal ground for the enemy to claim me. He let me see the chains wrapped around my spirit, the very chains I had once thought were symbols of strength. I saw the spiritual battles that had been raging over my soul. The moments when I thought I was lucky or strong enough were actually times when he had stepped in to hold back the destruction I had invited. I realized I had been protected more times than I deserved. But the more I resisted his call, the more I drifted toward a point of no return. There was no anger in him, but there was a holy seriousness, a weight that made me tremble. I understood, without him needing to say it, that my eternity was hanging in the balance. He showed me the road I was on and where it would lead if I refused to turn back. And then, he let me feel something I wasn't prepared for, his love. It wasn't a gentle, soft feeling at first. It was overwhelming, consuming, like fire burning away the lies I had believed. I saw that even though I had given my life to serve darkness, he had never stopped watching me, never stopped waiting, never stopped reaching out. In that place, I knew I had a choice. I could cling to my pride and keep the power I thought I had, or I could let it all go and fall into his mercy. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want to run anymore. I don't know how to describe what happened next except to say it felt like falling, but not into darkness, into light. The moment I surrendered, it was as if the chains that had been around me for years shattered all at once. The weight, the fear, the constant torment, it lifted. I could finally breathe. He showed me that forgiveness wasn't something I had to earn. It was a gift, freely given, but only if I was willing to lay down my old life completely. And in that moment, I understood that repentance wasn't just saying sorry. It was choosing to close every door I had opened to darkness, no matter the cost, and to walk in a new direction. When I came back from that experience, I wasn't the same. The desires I once had for power and control were gone. My hunger for the occult vanished. Instead, I had a deep longing to know him, to serve him, and to help others see the truth before it's too late. That's why I speak now, not to glorify where I came from, but to warn anyone who might be walking the same road I once did. Sin is not harmless. Every act of rebellion against God is like handing the enemy a key to your life. But the moment you truly surrender to Christ, those keys are taken back, and the doors to destruction can be shut forever. Today, I'm no longer a servant of darkness. I'm a servant of the one who rescued me. My life belongs to him, and every breath I take is proof of his mercy. If he could pull me out of the pit I was in, he can do the same for anyone, no matter how far they've fallen. Thank you for walking through this story with me. If something in my journey spoke to your heart, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, not for me but so you can keep hearing messages that bring hope, truth, and the reminder that God's love is still reaching for you even now.